What's the peak age for strength for men? Watch this.
Our next caller is Mark from New York.
Mark, what's happening, man? How can we help you?
Hey guys, this is awesome. Can't believe I'm talking to you guys.
All right.
Thank you.
So I just want to start off. I'll start off with a question and then go into some background. So my question is, if you put in the work consistently over a long period of time, should everyone be able to lift, say, 2 plates for bench, 3 plates for squat, and 4 plates for deadlift? Just some background on me. I've been lifting for 6 years now, and I'm finishing up the RGB progression, and I do a MAPS Prime warm-up. I've gained a considerable amount of muscle and really do like my physique, but I still am lifting the same weight I was about 5 years ago. For reference, it's about 185 for squat, 155 for bench, 225 for deadlift. I have tried to increase the weight on the lifts, but even, a 5 to 10 pound increase causes my form to break down and me to start twisting and breaking down form. I am consistent with the workouts and nutrition and sleep. I just feel with that consistency, I should be stronger and lifting more weight than I am. I always hear you guys talk about how strength is such a great indicator of progress. And I was just wondering if I'm missing anything or and what your guys' thoughts are.
All right, let me answer the first part about benching 2 plates, squatting 3 plates, and deadlifting 4 plates. That's true for girls. For guys, it should be.
Sal still can't do that.
I'm just kidding with you. Listen, Mark, there is no standard, okay, when it comes to strength, how much you should lift and how much you shouldn't lift. So I want to address that first because everybody's very different. And if I use this, let me put it this way. If I use the top powerlifting female competitor standards for lifting, I'd be very disappointed in myself after 30 years of working out. Just so you don't want to do that. It's just not fair to yourself. Now, the second part, I'm a little confused because you said you've gained a considerable amount of muscle, but your strength is the same. So what do you mean by that? Like, how much muscle have you gained? Have you gotten leaner? Is your body weight a lot lighter? Like, I need more details and to make sense of this.
Yeah, so I was about a year ago now. I was 140 pounds, under 10% body fat. I was just, did a lot of cardio, really obsessed with being lean. I bulked through most of the RGB progression, eating about 2,700 calories. And so over that 9-month process, I gained about 30 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
I look in the mirror, I compare myself to pictures from a year ago. I took pictures every few weeks and, I could tell it's not all fat just by looking at the pictures. And I was just curious, like, how that works and if I'm missing something on the strength side.
Did you get a body fat test or are you just judging off pictures?
I can tell by the way he looks.
You don't look like
I can tell right now, but it's the way you look in your video.
You don't look like you went to 20% body fat. Did you test body fat just by any chance so we can know how much lean body mass you actually gained?
I did not, no.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So you gained 30 pounds, a decent amount of muscle, but your strength is identical. Does your form feel different? Do you feel more under control? Are there any other changes in your workout performance?
I have improved my squat depth just by doing the MAPS Prime and going through that and doing that before the workouts. So I could say that, my lifts have improved in that regard with more range of motion on the squat.
Okay.
How did you feel during MAPS Anabolic in like phase 1, for instance? Like, did you feel any strength gains in that sort of a protocol where you dropped your reps down significantly?
That was the most I've ever increased. The weight I did go up to 200 for squat, which is the most I had ever done. During that, doing about 2 to 3 reps.
Okay, so I do want to be clear here. If you're using the same weight, but you're going, say, 5 inches deeper on your squat with more control, you're stronger.
Not only that, too.
For sure.
Also, if he's handling more volume in the workout than what he was 2 years ago, too, that's stronger.
Right.
Sometimes we always measure strength by the PRs.
Plates. Yeah.
This is the most I've ever deadlifted or squat, but I'm not counting that. I'm doing 3 more sets of deadlifting in a routine than I have ever done before, or if your volume is increased also.
Right.
So there's other factors that I think that are at play here, and especially if you have something as objective as looking at a picture from before and after, and you feel it, you have put on muscle and you look better. It sounds like you're doing really good, man.
Yeah, it sounds like now you might want to just shift your focus a little bit more on those big compound lifts and like really dive into that. And
Yeah, like a
maybe
MAPS
the
powerlifting. Yes,
absolutely.
Direction for you, because I guarantee, like if that's all working out for you, your body's substantially changing, transforming. Now, if that's an indicator, if that's a metric that you're going to seek, you just focus on that for a while, and you're gonna see a lot of strength gains.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. Justin was like, you know what would be great for you since you've gone through the RGB is now's a good time to mess with MAPS Powerlift.
Totally.
So go on a MAPS Powerlift routine, and I guarantee you run through that program, you will come back with all those numbers will have gone up.
Yeah, we'll send that to you, and if you don't have it. But yeah, if let's say you handle the same weight, but you're more stable, or your range of motion increases, or you can slow the rep down, or you can lift it more explosively, or you can handle more sets and not lighten the load, or you can rest less in between sets and handle the same load. Like all of that are improvements in strength.
Progress.
Yeah, it's not just I added weight to the bar. All of more volume, all that stuff shows that your strength has improved. So it's not always just the amount of weight, especially when, consider this too, you're going through different programs. Each one is different, right? MAPS Anabolic is very different from MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic is very different. Each one has different phases within them. So, phase 1 for MAPS Anabolic to phase 3, you can't look at the weight on the bar. And one of them you're doing, you're resting 3-4 minutes, you're doing really low reps. And the other phase you're doing supersets with lighter weight and more volume. So you don't want to necessarily compare it that way. You want to compare it kind of apples to apples. So a more fair comparison would be everything's identical, and then is the weight going up. The form is identical, the depth is identical, the volume is identical. Then is the weight going up. That would be a little bit more of a fair type comparison.
Mark, how old are you right now?
I am 23.
Oh yeah, and you're still growing too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you've got, and it's very normal to, you've been lifting consistently for 6 years. So when I think back to my entire lifting career, you're going to go through phases of your life where you kind of plateau PR wise on some of these lifts. I mean, I've been hovering around the same deadlift, squat, and bench for a very long time. So, and I can't get hung up all the time. Like I will not always keep getting stronger in those lifts. In fact, I tend to go way back down, and then I have to work my way back up just to getting back to what some of my PRs were in my late 20s in some of those lifts. And so I've kind of reached where my max potential strength is. Doesn't mean that I can't get a little bit stronger, but that's kind of what my body is capable of doing. That kind of, I think the max bench, I think it was at 350 at one point. My squat was around 420. My deadlift was 550. Those are kind of my max numbers. I'm not at any of those numbers right now because I'm not lifting at the same volume and consistency as what I was just 4 or 5 years ago. And if I were to really get after it, I'd be lucky just to get back up to those numbers and then stay consistent after that for another 4 or 5 years. Maybe I get another 5 pounds or 10 pounds out in some of those things. So, at one point when you've been consistently lifting for a long time, you start to get closer and closer to some of your probably your max numbers.
Yeah, another thing to consider too, Mark, is that when you look at, this isn't true for everybody, but generally speaking, people's strength peaks when they lift consistently in like their mid-30s. That's just across the board, which is very interesting. I've been working out.
That's where I hit my peak.
Same here. I worked out since I was 14 consistently, and the strongest I ever was about, 34, 35.
31, 32 for me was my peak.
Yeah, and if you look at competitive numbers, natural competitions, drug tested, all that stuff, you see people peaking strength-wise. Now, I'm not talking about athletic performance. That tends to be much younger, but that encompasses things like agility and that kind of stuff. But just raw strength, men tend to peak in their 30s, sometimes 40s. So that's when people are hitting their strongest lifts. And this is after years and years and years of lifting. So in other words, I'm telling you, you got a long ways to go. So don't freak out. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think you're doing great, dude.
Same.
Awesome. That's good to hear. I had no idea that, strength peaks that late. So, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
If I progress onto MAPS Powerlift, so I did bulk through most of the RGB progression. And I've kind of been at maintenance, just, being the summer, didn't want to keep bulking. And it's a lot of food. What would you recommend going into that program with nutrition-wise?
I like maintenance.
That's maybe a slight bulk, maybe like 100, 200 above maintenance, just enough to fuel any strength gains. You're not going to see like huge weight gains on that, but you should see huge strength gains.
You don't want to be in a deficit just because if your goal is to try and increase strength, like you want to give your body adequate energy, but that's about it.
Well, that's actually how I would let your calories be dictated, is how you feel going into each workout. So let's say you start the program and you get into week 2 or 3 and you see maybe a dip in strength. The very first place I would look at is my nutrition.
Yeah.
I would go like, oh man, maybe I'm not giving myself enough adequate calories or protein or enough carbohydrates before my workout. Yep. So just fuel your workouts. So make sure that if you do not feel like you're either maintaining strength or gaining strength through the program, that you give yourself adequate calories to make sure that you feel good in your workouts. That's how I would dictate whether I'm in a bulk, a maintenance, or whatever. But like Justin said, being in a deficit in a strength-based program, you're not going to see very much strength gains if you're in a deficit. So I definitely wouldn't be in a deficit. I'd be in a maintenance, slight surplus, like Sal was saying, and the way I would dictate that would be based off of my performance in my workouts.
There you go.
Perfect.
Okay. Awesome, guys. That sounds like a game plan. And I just want to thank you again. I mean, your podcast has really helped me create a fitness plan that fits in nicely. Like, I was in college, so I had all the time in the world, but now creating a plan that fits in nicely in that morning window before work. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, good for you, man.
Right
Thanks,
on.
Mark.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, back to that statistic that I mentioned, I remember as a kid, you hear all the time that a man's performance, right, peaks in their late teens, early 20s, athletics and sports and all that stuff. But when it comes to just pure strength, it's much later.
It's totally different. Like if you're right.
But I didn't know that, right?
Like,
so I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to hit these
That's
numbers.
where you don't really know your body till way later.
That's it.
Well, it's totally like grinding raw lifting strength is so different than like basketball, tennis, swimming,
Yeah,
athletics.
which is just lots of agility. And
Yeah.
You can't have joint pain. You got to be able to react really quick, which you kind of start to lose that as you get older.
Yeah, and that's
not
so,
the strength.
I mean, in professional sports, you're considered old at 30.
Right.
Yeah.
In lifting, it's completely opposite.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And the top lifters are in their early to mid 30s.
my
and some
peak-
of them in their 40s.
My peak was 31, 32 for
Yep.
strength. That was, I mean, that's so far, that's been the best I've ever been in a lift was at that time, was 31, 32. So that was like the best year. So, and most people I know that have been lifting for a long time would say the same thing.
Yeah, it's because it's an incremental, slowly build and build and build. And even now at 43, I can hit some of the numbers I hit in my mid-30s, not all of them, but some of them. And I'm starting now to notice a little bit, but that has more to do with just wear and tear on the body, and it's just not smart for me to train that way. But yeah, it's like when you're 23, when it comes to strength and lifting, you're a baby.
Yeah, I think
maybe not sports, but for lifting, you're a baby.
I think Larry Wheels has ruined it for everybody. Yeah,
I know, just-
every 25-year-old sees Larry Wheels and goes like, "Why can't I do?"
Well, if he
all
doesn't hurt himself, he'll keep getting stronger for the next 10 years. You know,
that?" Yeah, he's crazy.
He's a beast.
Isn't he? He's only like 25.
He's a
right?
baby.
Yeah, he's hella young.
Yeah.